Hello there, Sherry Brownrigg on Catholic Answers Live. Welcome to the program. And Cy Kellett is still in Rome on pilgrimage, so keep him in your prayers, would you? That's really a trip of a lifetime. I know he's probably been there before, but it is always awesome going on pilgrimage. Friends, we have an incredible show for you today. First hour, we have Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. We're going to be talking about the diaconate. And the second hour, Dr. Ray Guarendi will be here talking all about boundaries. So it is going to be a fantastic 2 hours, and hope you can stay with us a good share of the time. Now, I want to tease you about something. You've heard of this, haven't you? The 20 Answers. Well, this Advent and Christmas season, Catholic Answers is challenging you to build up your apologetic muscles. This year, we've got 2 great ways to challenge yourself, your friends, and your family. You are going to love this, and I'm going to tell you about it later on this hour, about the 20 Answers Challenge. So very exciting. Hey, Deacon Harold, how are you?
I'm doing well, Sherry. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. It's wonderful to have you, and I'm going to tell our listeners about you a little bit here. You're an author and international speaker, and you probably have heard Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers on EWTN's Morning Glory. He hosts that, and you can find all about him online at deaconharold.com. And Deacon Harold, you're not, where are you right now? Where in the world is Deacon Harold?
I am currently in Aurora, Illinois, doing a parish mission at St. Rita of Cascia Catholic Church. And this is the last night of the mission. Then I move on tomorrow to Wichita.
Wow. There's never rest for you, my friend. God calls you every single day to go somewhere. Well, I'm really excited to talk about the diaconate because, you know, this is a subject that I am actually personally interested in. And you know, it's an interesting thing. So I married my husband back in 1992. And I came into the church because he was Catholic. And then I had this huge overnight St. Paul conversion later. And my husband since has left the church. But I keep praying for him because I think he would be the best deacon ever. I know some pretty good deacons, awesome. And we're talking to one right here. But, you know, it's funny because whenever I tell God about this, you know, God laughs and says, well, I know him better than you do, actually. So, and love him more. But, you know, I think there's so many wives out there, Deacon Harold, who probably just wish their husbands would be deacons because what a beautiful thing that is to serve the Lord in that way.
Yeah, it is, you know, and it's interesting because a lot of people still don't really understand who deacons are and what their role in the church is. So I still hear things to this day. Oh, so you're a deacon. That's like being a priest, except you can't say mass and hear confessions, right? I'm like, no. It's different. And so the way I like to describe it is, you know, the bishop is the chief teacher and evangelizer of a diocese, of a particular church. And he has 2 main jobs. To facilitate communion, that means to bring people together around the sacraments of the church, most especially the Holy Sacrament of the Eucharist. Mm-hmm. And he also has to evangelize. He has to share the life-changing news of the encounter with Jesus Christ. Well, the thing is, the bishop can't do it all by himself. He needs help. So he has priests to help him with this ministry of facilitating communion, especially around the sacramental life of the church and the Eucharist. And he has deacons to help him with his ministry of evangelization. So that's why, for example, even when a pope says mass, a deacon reads the gospel, because the deacon is the minister of the evangelium, right? The good news. But it's not just good news, because when evangelium was used at the time of Christ, it meant good news, except news that Caesar proclaimed. When Caesar proclaimed news, it was life-changing news. Why? Because news from the king could change your life. And we serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So the news of the encounter with Jesus Christ is life-changing news, not just good news. And that's the news that the deacon proclaims. So the deacon kicks you out at the end of Mass, go and announce the gospel of the Lord. Go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life. And don't worry, you won't be alone, because I'll be with you in the trenches from Monday to Saturday. And the deacon, I see, is like the scriptures, like the paralytic on the stretcher. His friends reach out to their friend who's ill and the friends bring him to Jesus. And the crowd is too thick at the door, they can't get in, so they cut a hole in the roof and lower him down to the feet of Jesus. And that's what I see the deacons doing. We go out from the church. We're kind of like the bridge between the church and the world. And so we bring the life-changing news of Jesus Christ into the workplace, into the hospitals, to the poor, to the sick, to the imprisoned, to the atheists, to the agnostics, to the fallen away Catholics. We bring the good news of Jesus Christ, and then, and we dialogue. And then when people are ready, we bring them, like the paralytic on the stretcher. We bring them to the healing ministry of the priest. We bring them back to the church. We bring them back to the sacraments. Sometimes we may have to cut a hole in the roof to get them there, but our job is to bring them to that encounter, the life-changing encounter with the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that means the deacon's ministry is not just in the parish. The deacon is ordained for ministry primarily, I would say, outside of the parish.
Yeah.
The emphasis, I think, is on in the parish now because priests need a lot of help. But ideally, the deacon should be serving, of course, in the parish, but also outside of the parish, being that sacramental sign and witness of the service ministry of Christ in the world.
And it's interesting, Deacon Harold, because there are so many churches where, as you said, the pastor, the priest needs a lot of help. So that's the only time that people in the parish actually see the deacon is at Mass, see him on the altar with Father. But there are so many different things that a deacon can do. Isn't that correct? I mean, isn't that actually part of it, that you're actually assigned to do some other things besides assisting at Mass?
Yeah, so when a deacon is ordained, like a priest, he gets a letter with faculties. So the letter spells out, here are the things that you are ordained to do and have authorization to do from the bishop, because the only way you can function licitly as a deacon is with the permission of the bishop. But I want to go back because it's been now 50 years since the reinstitution of the diaconate as a permanent order. No, the diaconate has always existed since Acts chapter 6, but it became, about the 10th century, became a transitional order. But it never fell out of the church. The church never lost the deacons. But in 1967, Pope Paul VI reinstituted the diaconate as a permanent order with a motu proprio. And in there, he lists out the functions of the deacon. So to assist the bishop and the priest during liturgical actions, to administer baptism solemnly, to reserve the Eucharist and distribute it to himself and others, and to bring it as viaticum to the dying, and to impart benediction with the Blessed Sacrament. In the absence of a priest, to assist and bless at marriages in the church, according to canon law, of course, to administer sacramentals, so blessing rosaries, blessing religious objects, things like that. And there's a book of blessings which spells out which blessings bishop and priest can do, which blessings bishop, priest, and deacons can do, and which blessings lay people can do. They are to officiate at funerals and graveside services, of course, outside of Mass, to read the sacred scriptures and to instruct and exhort the people, again, primarily outside of Mass. Now, why do I say outside of Mass? Because at Mass, the primary preaching duty is the priest. Why? He's the shepherd. And the sheep are there to hear the shepherd. The deacon, we're like the sheepdogs. We kind of round everybody up. And so you hear from us, of course, sometimes at Mass. In fact, the rubrics say the deacon preaches occasionally. But the main preview is preaching outside of Mass. So when we're leading liturgical ceremonies outside of Mass, funerals, burials, baptisms, that's the primary area for preaching. To read the sacred books to the faithful and instruct and exhort the people, to preside at worship services and prayer services of the people when the priest is not present, to direct the liturgy of the word in the absence of a priest. So those are the Sunday celebrations in the absence of a priest. To promote and sustain the apostolic activities of the laity. See, so some people get defensive. Like, for example, if a lay person is used to carrying up the book of the Gospels because there's no deacon there, and a deacon shows up, they get, it's my job. Well, no, it's not your job. Mm-hmm. You're carrying the book of the Gospels because the deacon's not there. It's like I said, even when the Pope says Mass, a deacon carries a book of the gospel and the deacon reads the gospel. We're not there to take the place or somehow subvert lay ministry. We're there to support and to sustain and to promote the activities of lay people, not to take the place of.
That makes me sad to think that someone would be upset by that. So I hope you don't experience that too much, Deacon Harold.
I do occasionally, actually, but fortunately not that often. So, I'm actually working on a project now where I'm going to be writing something, a book to help lay people better understand the role of the deacons in the life of the church.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think we really need that. Okay, we'll watch for that. All right, well, here's the number if you'd like to join in the conversation. It's 888-318-7884. And some of the calls are starting to come in here, but there is room for you at 888-31-TRUTH. It's Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. We are talking about the permanent diaconate, and we'd love to have you join in the conversation. 888-31-TRUTH. We'll be right back on Catholic Answers Live.
Got questions? Visit us today at Catholic.com.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
What is witchcraft? Is it dangerous? What should I do if my child or loved one has become involved in witchcraft or other occult activity? Is it okay for Christians to use things like Ouija boards, tarot cards, and mediums for fun? In 20 Answers, Witchcraft and the Occult, you'll find smart, solid answers to these questions and many more, helping you to understand the truth about witchcraft and occult practices so that you can protect yourself from the lies they promote. 20 Answers, Witchcraft and the Occult is part of the 20 Answers series from Catholic Answers, offering hard facts, powerful arguments, and clear explanations of the most important topics facing the Church and the world, all in a compact, easy-to-read package. Visit shop.catholic.com today and take a look at this exciting new series from Catholic Answers Press.
Father Robert Spitzer.
First of all, you will get a much deeper awareness of your faith, much deeper awareness of the evidence for your faith, explanations of tough theological issues, how science and reason and faith come together, and above all, a deeper awareness of how to practice your faith and how to live it.
Father Spitzer's Universe with Father Robert Spitzer. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
You're listening to Catholic Answers Live. Sherry Brown-Rigdon for Cy Kellett, who's on pilgrimage, and we've got calls coming in here. Happy to have yours as well, because we're talking about the diaconate, and we went right to the top talking about this one with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers is with us. 888-31-TRUTH, 888-318-7884. So, Deacon Harold, what do you think? Do you want to go to the phones?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
This is Catholic Answers, after all.
Well, that's right. So we got two Catholics here, and we need the answers. We just need the questions, and Bob in Houston has one. He's listening on 1430 AM. Hey, Bob, you're on with Deacon Harold.
Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
I'm looking for the requirements to look into the diaconate. Many years ago, I was kind of looking at it, and I took Formation Towards Christian Ministry. Started out, I think that was a 2-year program, and then kids got in the way. So have requirements changed, or what are they?
Yes, Bob, that's a great question. And it really depends on your diocese. What's happened, Bob, since probably you applied for the diaconate, was that back in like 1999, the Vatican put out documents for the life and ministry and the formation of permanent deacons. The USCCB took that document and adapted it for the formation of deacons in the United States, which was a wonderful document, because what that did, it kind of formalized and kind of centralized training and formation for deacons, because it was literally all over the map depending on what diocese you were from. So this really kind of like generalized and normalized things. Now, there's another revision of that coming out. I think sometime next year. I think they still have to vote on the final revisions of the new diaconal document, updating the formation and training of deacons. But so it depends on your diocese. But in general, Bob, there's an application process, and then once you go through the application process, there's a series of like discernment weekends, and you usually have to attend that with your wife if you're married. And they kind of tell you what the diaconate is about, they tell you what the canon law requirements are, and you kind of get into, here's how the training is going to go. Here's what the diaconate's all about. Here's maybe some of the impacts to your family life, that kind of thing. And now remember, you're discerning the diaconate, and the diocese is also discerning whether you're called to the diaconate. So it's kind of a two-way street going on there. And so if you kind of pass that first phase, then there's typically a more formal thing. We have to do a deeper application with a background check and credit history and, psychological tests and that kind of thing. And then you have to do some kind of educational requirement. Now, some dioceses go from either 4 to 7 years. Why is that? Because some dioceses, for example, like Phoenix, you have to do a 2-year ministry formation program, like a diocesan ministry formation program first. Then you do the 5-year diaconate program. So that's 7 years altogether. In my diocese, in Archdiocese of Portland in Oregon, it's a 5-year process. 3 of those years involve academic studies toward a master's degree or the equivalent. So it's going to vary from diocese to diocese how that educational requirement goes. And during that time, you get called to lector and acolyte and candidate, and finally leading up to ordination. So it's a long process, but again, it kind of varies from diocese to diocese. The best thing I would do, Bob, is contact the diaconate director in your diocese, and they'll definitely help you out as to what the specific requirements are for the diocese that you're in Houston there.
Can
Bob,
I ask one more question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Is there an age limit of when you can start the program?
Yeah. So the minimum age for ordination is 35. Okay. So Bob, when I started, I was accepted into the program at 30 years old, which is very, very unusual. I was quite young. But there was no class that year, so I had to wait a year before the next class started. So I was 31. But I did not meet any of the requirements. For example, if you're married, you have to be married for at least 5 years. If you are just coming to the church, you have to be a Catholic for so many years. And there's different requirements that way, canon law-wise. You have to be 35 and meet all the requirements at the time of ordination, not at the time that you start the program. See? So, and at the other end, I think it's 65 or 68, which is the high end for ordination. But again, there's a 2-year flex on either side where the bishop, at his discretion, can ordain you younger than 35 or a little older than 65.
Perfect.
Bob, do you
very
feel
much.
like Bob? I'm curious. Do you feel like
Bob.
you're being called again?
Yes, I do feel that, and a lot of other people have prompted me to do this for many years. So I feel that's the Holy Spirit working through them also. So.
Well, you're probably right about that. And if they see
Bob,
something in you, that's beautiful.
Let me tell you, if you go to my website, Bob, deaconharold.com, deaconharold.com, you'll see a bar across the top. One of those bars, Bob, says called to serve. I get so many questions from men who are discerning the diaconate that I created like a blog, like a one-page blog post that kind of goes through the discernment process, like the things that I went through with my wife and discerning it together. So if you click on that, called to serve, I think that'll give you some things and you and your wife to reflect and pray about as you're discerning the call to the diaconate.
Good resource. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, for your call. Yeah, we'll be praying for your discernment as well. So thanks so much. 888-31-TRUTH, 888-318-7884. From Texas, we go to Maryland. Will is there. Hey, Will, you're on with Deacon Harold.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Great to talk to you.
Great. Well, listen, Deacon Harold, would you mind sharing how you discerned your call?
Sure. So I originally in my 20s was discerning a call to monastic life. So I lived in Newark Abbey in Newark, New Jersey. They run St. Benedict's Preparatory High School, where I went to high school. I did the Come and See program all 4 years of high school. And when I came back from college in the summers, I would live in the monastery for a week or two. And then I graduated from college, worked for a year, and joined the monastery. And thought, yeah, I'm gonna live here. It's gonna be awesome. And I was there for a while, but then my mom got sick and almost died, and I'm the oldest, and so I left to take care of her and my sister, who was still in high school. And when I was out of the monastery for those 3 months, I went to a wedding and met the woman who ended up being my wife. So that didn't work. So she's from Oregon. So I moved from Jersey. We got out to Oregon, got married and all that. But I still felt, Will, a pull or a tug or an attraction or, so I got to Oregon. I dove into the parish life. I was on parish council and I was training altar servers and I was lecturing and I was, just immersing myself in the life of the parish. And then during the Easter Vigil, my first year in Oregon, this would have been spring of 19, really felt the Holy Spirit calling me, almost literally like a voice. And so I talked to my pastor about it afterward. He looked at me and said, "Oh, you'd be a great deacon." And so that started the process. And thanks be to God, I was ordained in November of 2002. So actually, this month will be 17 years. That I'll be ordained a deacon.
That's a beautiful story. Thanks so much for your call, Will. We appreciate that. And here's the number again. It's 888-318-7884. And Stephen is listening to Guadalupe Radio Network in Virginia. Stephen, you are on the air with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers.
The Augustine Institute or Holy Apostles Seminary. Or Catholic Distance University or University of Steubenville, where they have distance online train. You can take classes through distance learning. So that's the way they're getting the classes. Or some dioceses meet once a month and they have priests who have master's degrees or licentiate degrees who are teaching the theology to the diaconate classes. There's a great, in some place, for example, the Josephinum in Ohio, is like a seminary, but they train deacons there. Sacred Heart Seminary in Detroit has a program where deacons can study there at the seminary. Guys are permanent deacons, but it works around your work schedule. So it's about once a month. Now you may have to sacrifice something on that weekend, usually a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you take that weekend and you do formalized classes or training or studying during that weekend. So you may have to adjust the work schedule once a month or so. But again, it's only for a certain amount of years until leading up to ordination. So you can have a full-time job. For example, when I went through, Stephen, I had a full-time job and I was going to school and we just started having babies at that time too. So when I started the program, we had no kids. When I was ordained a deacon, we had 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my wife was pregnant with the twins. So we were busy. So you don't get paid, Stephen, to be a deacon unless your job is already working in the parish. So say, for example, Stephen, you were a DRE, a director of religious education in your parish as a layperson, and you become a deacon and you keep your job. So you're paid by the parish, not because you're a deacon, but because you're the DRE in the parish. And that's basically how that looks, Stephen.
All right, Stephen, thank you for that excellent question. And that leaves a line open for you at 888-318-7884. Lots more to come here on Catholic Answers Live with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Stay with us.
If you're a Catholic who sometimes gets intimidated by the Bible, Jimmy Akin's The Bible is a Catholic Book will help you better understand and take pride in this gift that God gave the world through the church. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Catholics are the original Bible Christians. Order your copy of The Bible as a Catholic Book today by calling 844-239-4952, by visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Did you know you can access Catholic Answers Live right from your phone or other mobile device? Download the Catholic Answers Live app today. The Catholic Answers Live app, available now on iOS and Android.
Everybody's favorite Catholic outer space delivery pilots returned for their greatest adventure yet in the brand new graphic novel Weapons of War. Fresh from saving the solar system in The Truth Is Out There and saving the timeline of salvation history in The Big Picture, Brendan and Irk land in a magnificent domed city on Mars for what is supposed to be a simple shuttle job. But soon they find themselves caught up in a sinister assault on faith and freedom. Will Mars be lost to the enemy? Brendan and Irk's only hope for the flight is in the power of God's sacramental gifts. A totally new kind of Catholic resource for apologetics and evangelization, The Truth Is Out There series combines the visual excitement and quirky humor of graphic novels with solid popular philosophy and theology. The result is a series in which everyone from teens to adults can find accessible answers to questions about God, the soul, true happiness, and much more. Order your copy of Weapons of War today by calling 844-239-4952, by visiting shop.catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. There are a lot of misconceptions about the Catholic faith. We clear them up on Call to Communion, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. We are having a great time here talking with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers about the diaconate. So interesting, and great calls too at 888-318-7884. Who am I kidding? They're always great calls, no matter who the guest is. But there's just something about you, Deacon Harold, that just makes everything come alive. I don't know what it is. But we'll get back to the phones here in a minute. But I want to tell our listeners about that 20 Answers Challenge, the 20 Answers Advent Challenge. I had kind of, teased a little bit about it early in the show. And here's how it works. This is really cool. When you purchase the sampler of all 35 books in the series of the 20 Answers Advent Challenge, you're going to save 65% off the normal price. And here at Catholic Answers, we are challenging you to finish them all this Advent and Christmas season. Wow, boy, I think we're going to have to take them up on that challenge, guys. And then they're going to give you free shipping if you live within the continental U.S. So it's 65% off every set that you purchase, plus free shipping. There's 35 books in all, plus the free shipping, plus answers to 700 questions about all things Catholic. Very cool. Now, Advent begins Sunday, December 1st, so you can order your set today and it will be here in time. And this offer is only good, though, through Sunday, this Sunday, November 10th. And we're going to tell you about the second challenge at the bottom of next hour. So keep listening to that. In the meantime, call in and talk to Deacon Harold, 888-318-7884. So we are going now to Anonymous. Anonymous, you are on the air with Deacon Harold. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi there.
So, my question, I know someone whose father has become a permanent deacon, and they didn't really support it. They are Catholic, but they feel like instead they're now having to share their dad, or that they've kind of lost him in a way because now he's a deacon, and they were kind of wondering, why did he need to become a deacon? If most of what a deacon can do can be done by a layperson, then why couldn't he just do it as a layperson? And I didn't want to talk to this deacon because the kid doesn't want them to know that they don't approve of it. So I was hoping that maybe you can give me something that I can share with them to help them feel better about it.
All right. Well, thanks, Anonymous. Well, here a couple things. First of all, I think it's incorrect to say that a layperson can do most of the things that a deacon can do. I think it's the fact that there's no deacon there, that the layperson are doing things that deacons would normally do if there was a deacon at the parish. I think that's the first thing to say. The other thing is you're correct. I mean, I usually there's a lot more scrutiny when it comes to family life, especially if the kids are upset about dad becoming a deacon. That should have been something that was looked at, while the process was going on. Some dioceses, Anonymous, don't allow men to even start the diaconate program until the kids are a certain age. Now, it's not canon law, but some dioceses are so concerned about the impact the diaconate will have on the family that they'll say that kids have to be 12, 13, 14, whatever it is, before they can begin the process of the diaconate. So the church is very concerned about the impact on the family. That's why I'm surprised that that was not looked at. For example, in our diocese, we have home visits that are done by a deacon and his wife will come to the candidate's home and have dinner and have a conversation. Of course, while they're there, they're looking around and seeing how the house is being managed and those kinds of things. And if they have concerns, they'll bring it back to the diaconate board. So if the kids were upset about it, I'm sure they were talking to their mom, and the mom and the husband should have sat down, because if the wife and kids aren't on board, then, I'm surprised that they went ahead with the ordination, quite frankly. Because I tell you right now, there's no way I could be fulfilling this ministry without the support of my wife. Mm-hmm. Again, she's not interested in doing ministry with me. That's not necessary. But her love and support of what God has called me to do, I would not be able to do what I'm doing without her love and her support, and the kids. Like I said, I had babies when I was ordained a deacon, so they've never known me not to be in diaconal ministry, and they know they have to share me with the church, because here's how it works. The church looks at a man who's at his home, who's already serving well, because diaconia, the word deacon means servant. They recognize, hey, this guy's serving well in his family as a husband and father, and we're discerning whether he's called to share those gifts with the entire church. But that's something that has to be discerned with his wife and the family. So again, I'm surprised that he was able to go that far without this concern being brought up
Deacon
before
Harold,
ordination.
Is there any way to remedy that situation once something like this happens?
Well, once he's ordained, see, here's the thing. The key to all this, to me, is you got to listen to your wife. I believe with all my heart that the Holy Spirit speaks through my wife. And if I don't listen to her, then I'm an idiot. And so while we were going through this discerning process, my wife did have concerns. She was like, hon, we got young kids. What does this mean? And one of the things that we did in our diocese, they had the wives of the deacons come and have a separate meeting one of the discernment weekends with the wives of the men who were discerning. My wife said that was the absolute best thing they could have ever done, because women said, okay, look, let's just tell us for real how this going to work. How do you share your husband with all these? How does this actually work? And she said she felt so much better after hearing how it actually works from women who are going through it. And so that allowed her to be able to help discern what her role was and how she could support me in all of this. And it was huge.
Yeah.
So, but once you're ordained, you got to have that ongoing your primary responsibility is still your wife and your kids. That's your primary sacrament. And, to see your family fall apart because of the work you're doing as a deacon, maybe you should take a step back and work on the family piece and then discern together how much. For example, when my kids were like I said, were babies when I was a deacon, when I was first ordained. So my wife said, I feel comfortable if you worked X amount of hours in the parish every week. And so she limited it. You could only be away from home at the parish for this many hours a week. And I stuck to that. I stayed, I listened to her, and I stuck to that schedule, and it's worked out great. Like I said, 17 years. And our marriage is better than ever, by the way.
You're such a good husband, Deacon Harold.
Well, I'm trying. I always listen to Dr. Ray Garendi too. That always helps.
He's going to be on next hour, so you'll have your chance.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Anonymous. We do appreciate that. And that sounds like a family that we should pray for. So to our listeners,
Yes,
let's
absolutely.
keep that family, definitely in prayer. 888-318-7884. And heading to Evelyn, who is listening on Covenant Network. Hello, Evelyn. You're on the air with Deacon Harold.
Hi, Deacon Harold.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. My question is, what is the difference between the diaconate and the ordinary or novus ordo and the diaconate in the extraordinary form?
Okay, great question, Evelyn. So as far as the deacon himself, who he is and his role, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. The main difference in the extraordinary and ordinary form is his function at Mass, his liturgical function at Mass. The deacon in the ordinary form has more parts to play, if you will. His speaking parts, he helps distribute communion, different things like that. In the extraordinary form, it's different. So he doesn't have the same type of role that he has and exercise the ministry differently in the holy sacrifice of the Mass in the extraordinary form than in the ordinary form. So that's basically, it's a liturgical functional difference. It's not a theological difference as far as how he functions as a deacon in general, just how he functions at the liturgy.
Does that help, Evelyn?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Great question here. And that leaves an open line for you. The number again is 888-318-7884. In fact, I think we have more than one open line. So if you've got a question for Deacon Harold, you can get right in at 888-31-TRUTH. And I think actually, let's head to break here. I wanted to get to Philomena, but Philomena, you are next. We can't wait to take your question here. 888-31-TRUTH. And there's lots more to come here with Deacon Harold and Catholic Answers Live.
Hello, this is Archbishop Alexander Sample of the Archdiocese of Portland in Oregon. Keep that dial right here on Catholic Answers Live.
The power of prayer simply means that words have an effect. For example, when a couple says, "I do," it literally changes two people to becoming one in marriage. When you say, "I love you," it changes us and it gives us value. The power of prayer is in the words and in the sentiment, but it's also in the fact that God, who is omnipotent, all-powerful, answers our prayers.
You've heard that St. Paul Street Evangelization supports hundreds of teams of evangelists sharing the good news. But did you know that some of these teams are public prayer stations? Set up a sign on the sidewalk and offer prayer and encouragement to those you encounter. Everyone needs prayer. Try this new method of witnessing to Jesus. Contact St. Paul Street Evangelization to get started at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I'm Shirley Brown-Rigg, in for Cy Kellett, who is on pilgrimage with Monsignor Eugene Morris and Chris Check. So keep them in your prayers if you would. We appreciate that. Hey, we've got a brand new ebook that we have just released, and it is free. It's called A Great Cloud of Witnesses, the Communion of Saints. Here as we are in this first full week of November, we do think about the communion of saints a little bit more than we do normally. Well, visit shop.catholic.com. You can look for the banner at the top of the page and just download your free copy from there. But it's full of great articles about the saints by Jimmy Akin, Tim Staples, Father Mitch Pacwa, and many others. So download yours right now, A Great Cloud of Witnesses, the Communion of Saints. It's at shop.catholic.com. And as promised, Philomena is in Massachusetts listening to 1060 AM. Hello, Philomena. You're on the air with Deacon Harold.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Deacon Harold. How are you?
Doing well, thank you, Philomena.
Okay, my only question is I just got into my cards and I heard you online again. I heard Monday that you were coming to Randolph, Massachusetts, but I didn't get all the information. So
Yeah,
I
I'm going to be
wanted
up in. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking at several different events in the Boston area coming up in a couple of weeks. Right up until the weekend before Thanksgiving. So if you go to my website, deaconharold.com, deaconharold.com, and look at my schedule, you can see all the events that I'll be speaking at in Boston.
I heard you're going to be in Randolph, in Lombardo's in Randolph. It's down the street from my house. I just don't want to miss it.
Yeah, I'm going to be different place. I don't even know where I'm going. I'm going to Wichita tomorrow, and I don't know where I'm going after that. So
You should see this
I gotta look
man's
at the schedule myself, but that's the best place to go, to the schedule on my website, Philomena. Thank you.
All right, it's deaconharold.com. Thanks so much for that, Philomena. We do appreciate that. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of us are thinking about, Deacon Harold, is because the Amazon Synod just wrapped up, and there was a lot of talk about women deacons there. I got to say that I'm probably not in favor of that, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, here's the thing. Let me just start by saying this. There were deaconesses in the church. There's no question about that. But they were not ordained. That's the issue.
That's the difference.
Look,
okay.
So there was a study that was done by the International Theological Commission, a 5-year comprehensive study on the diaconate. It was released in 2002. It's called From the Diaconia of Christ to the Diaconia of the Apostles. And it says regarding deaconesses, it says deaconesses, and this is what the Didascalia Apostolicorum said. It's a document that laid out kind of like how ministries are supposed to function in the church. And this was in the early church. It says deaconesses should carry out the anointing of women in the rite of baptism. So, for example, baptisms were done full immersion, naked. And so imagine the anointings. So imagine the scandal of a priest anointing a woman naked after coming out for baptism.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the women do that. They also instructed women neophytes, visited the women faithful, especially the sick, in their homes, and they were forbidden to confer baptism themselves or to play a part in the Eucharistic offering. It says deacons should have no liturgical functions, but should devote themselves to their function in the community, which was, quote, service to women. And they act as intermediaries between women and the bishop. It also stated in that document that the women deacons should do nothing without the deacon, the male deacon. They should stand at the women's entrances to the assemblies and function as follows. Quote, deacons do not bless. She does not fulfill any of the things that priests or deacons do, but she looks after the doors and attends the priest during the baptism of women for the sake of decency. End quote. And we even see this in some of the early church fathers. For example, around 375, Ephananius of Salmis said, there is certainty in the church in the order of deacon. There was certainly the order of deaconesses, but this does not exist to exercise the function of a priest, nor are they to have any undertaking committed to them, but for the decency of the feminine sex at the time of baptism. So I mean, this was over and over and over in the church here. Now, even the Council of Nicaea in 325 in Canon 19, it says, likewise in the case of deaconesses, and generally in the case of those who have been enrolled among the clergy, let the same be observed. And we mean by deaconesses such as have assumed the habit, the habit, like a religious order, but who, since they have no imposition of hands, are to be numbered only among the laity. Even up to 2015, Sister Sarah Butler wrote a very detailed essay called Women as Deaconesses. And she says in there that there was a distinction in the grade of orders which could only be held by men, and there was a separate order and mission to be held by women. So, sometimes they use the word, for example, the Council of Chalcedon, when it talks about women, deacons talks about ordination, but it really wasn't ordination the way we understand it today. It was more like a commissioning. So, like, for example, when a monk becomes an abbot, he's not ordained an abbot, but the bishop comes and blesses him and he becomes abbot of the monastery. It was kind of like that. So the order of deaconesses, which again assisted women, widows, orphans, ended up becoming evolving into religious sisters, and that's how that all started. So that's why, even now they said we need to do more study. Study what? I mean, all the studies already been done, and that's why Pope Francis already called for a study. They couldn't come to a conclusion. Now they're going to study even more. To what conclusion? I mean, all the information is already there. I think people have agendas, and they're trying to push their agenda onto the church when the history is clear that, yes, there were deaconesses, but I just clearly stated from the documentation that they function completely separately than the ordained deacon of priest, bishop, and deacon in the church.
The only thing they had in common was
here's the
word
solution. You want to hear the solution? Yeah. When I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, I did the retreat for what they call the urban deacons. And I said, wait a minute, there's separate deacons here? Well, there's the urban deacons, the guys who serve in the cities, and there's the bush deacons, the Native Alaskan deacons. And why was there a difference? Because when they started ministering to the Native Alaskans, the priests went out there, and the priests would go and they say, oh, where's your wife? And he had to explain to them, well, I'm celibate, my bride is the church, and they couldn't understand it, so they tried to offer women to the priest. Not to get a break his vow. They just said, this is strange. You have no woman to take care of you. And so they started introducing deacons into the bush. And started ministering along with the priest. And that led to, because of the evangelization that was done by the priest and the deacon, the men, the Native Alaskan men, end up becoming and training to become deacons themselves and serving their own community. That's the solution. Not ordaining women deacons, where they never ordained in the church in the first place.
I love that solution.
True enculturation is using what the church already has and bringing people to a deeper understanding of faith and doing a grassroots approach to service in that community.
Yeah, amen. Amen. This is Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers that you're listening to. You can find out more about him at deaconharold.com. And Deacon Harold, you've got some pilgrimages coming up as well, don't you?
Yes, I'm excited to announce that we're going to go to the Holy Land in Aberamagal, because the Passion Play that happens in Germany is every 10 years, and 2020 is when it's happening. So if you go to my website, deaconharold.com, you click on pilgrimages, you'll see all the information you need for 2 pilgrimages. One is May 8th to the 19th, 2020, 12 days, the Holy Land, and then to Aberamagal, Germany. And then in August, we're going to go to Aberamagal first, and then go to Prague and Poland. Why? Next year is the 100th anniversary of St. John Paul II's birthday. And so, man, he was my man. John Paul II, what? That's my boy, man. So so we're going to have Divine Mercy. So Faustina, John Paul II, Maximilian Kolbe, so it's going to be an awesome, awesome pilgrimage. So you have 2 opportunities to go with me on pilgrimage. Again, May 8th through the 19th. To the Holy Land and then to Aberamagal, and then August 17th to the 28th to Aberamagal, and then to Prague and Poland.
Wow. Okay, and you can find out more about that at deaconharold.com.
Just click on pilgrimages. You see all the information there that you need.
All right, let's head back to the phones here at 888-31-TRUTH. Dick is listening to Guadalupe Radio in Texas. Dick, you're on the air with Deacon Harold.
Hi, Deacon Harold. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dick. Thank you.
I remember you from Seattle, Washington. Some years ago, you were at the Iron Sharpen Iron conference.
Yes, that's right. Right in my backyard. Didn't have to go very far. I took the train.
You haven't lost any enthusiasm at all.
Yeah, thank you, Dick.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I tried the diaconate when I was 70 years old, and that was way too late. I don't know. I think in Seattle, the Archdiocese has a limit at around 55 as the upper end. So if you're thinking about it at all, think about it when you're a younger man, because it takes a lot of time for training and to settle in and be really confident in what you're doing. So I just thought I'd throw that out to you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Dick. You actually bring up a good point. I think that we should be discerning, ordaining younger men, because what's happening, because again, they're concerned about the diaconate and the impact to the family, and that causing tension within the family. And, they don't want families to break up because of the diaconate. They're waiting till children are older. But then what's happening, we're seeing like a lot of deacons are like 50s, late 50s, early 60s, or even mid 60s by the time they're ordained. You know, but canon law is 35. And I think there's something to be said for younger deacons. For example, I just turned 36 when I was ordained. And we had young kids, very unusual. But the diaconate actually strengthened and enriched our marriage. And we became a witness to couples our age about the power of Christ's love working in our marriage through the diaconal ministry. So I think it should be looked at a case-by-case basis, because every case, every marriage, every situation is different. So instead of just a blanket thing, well, no one can start until the kids are a certain age, I really think dioceses need to maybe step back and take a look, again, on a case-by-case basis and determine whether this particular man at this age in his family situation now, again, with the full cooperation and blessing of his wife, could move forward to pursue the discernment of the diaconate at a younger age.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dick, for your call. We do appreciate that. And here's a question that actually it's from Ken, and he wasn't able to stay on. And I want to get to this one because it talks a little bit about women, which we were just talking about. And he says, you say that women can't bless, but don't women Eucharistic ministers bless those who come up at communion but can't receive?
No, first of all, what I meant was the blessings that deacons are to do, the women deaconesses could not do. So it was in the context of liturgical blessing, like in the book of blessings, where you're blessing rosaries or Bibles or religious objects or those kinds of blessings was what I talked within the context of the ordained ministry. And quite frankly, we don't do blessings in our archdiocese when people come up for communion.
No,
why? Because everybody gets a blessing after Mass. People don't come to receive communion and to get a blessing. They come to receive Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, divinity. So what we do is when the person comes forward with their arms crossed, we say, may Christ be with you. There's no hand gestures, there's no touching, there's no blessing action. We just say, may Christ be with you, period. Move on to the next person.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's not the coming to communion is not the time to get a blessing. Everybody gets a blessing at the end of Mass. So I think more dioceses should consider that.
Yeah, we do that here too in Omaha, so that's wonderful. Here's another question. An anonymous couldn't stay on, but can a single deacon in formation date? No, because if you're single and not married, if you get ordained, you can't get married. So you have to be married. In fact, you have to be married for at least 5 years before you can be ordained as a deacon. Now, when I started the process, I was 30. I was only married for 2 years. So at the time that I started the diaconal process, I was not married long enough. But again, you have to meet the requirements for at ordination, not when you start the program. So just to clarify that, you're saying that basically a single man is not ordained a deacon?
Yes, he can be ordained, but he can't get married. So if he wants to date or thinking about getting married, he needs to do that first and then consider the diaconate.
Gotcha. Well, Deacon Harold, this has been a terrific hour. Your information, your enthusiasm is just infectious.
Thank you, Sherry. It's been great to be with you. It's been too long. So it was great to be with you again.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. All right, friends, you can find out more about Deacon Harold at deaconharold.com. And just a quick tease for next hour, Dr. Ray Guarendi is going to be with us. We'll be talking about setting boundaries. So stay with us, 888-31-TRUTH.